Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Poppin' This D. Boss reacts to this video by Jamari. This is Wannabe comedian forced to apologize after walking off podcast. So I reacted to his video about this guy who got upset with Bobby Lee, and then he walked off because, you know, he didn't like what Bobby was saying to him or whatever. Bobby was cracking little jokes and telling him that he was too long-winded, and he didn't like that. So he got upset and walked off, and now I guess he's coming to apologize. Let's see what's going on. Let's watch.
So a couple of weeks back, we talked about this wannabe comedian named George Janko. He's the third mic on Logan Paul's podcast, and it's been that way for the last year and a half or so. And as you guys already know, this guy George is softer than Charmin toilet paper.
My hand is clean. Oh yeah, I'm Charmin clean.
Which is not a good quality for a stand-up comedian to have. Don't get me wrong, on the inside a lot of these comedians are deeply insecure and even offbeat, but on the outside, especially when faced with another well-respected comedian, they better get ready for a bit of a roast battle, especially when they are in a setting where they are trying to entertain an audience.
Bro, you look like a mechanic from Nordstrom Rack, dude. That's the fucking problem, dude. You're like, damn, I didn't know Nordstrom Rack did tires, you know?
And for those of you that missed the last video, basically veteran comedian Bobby Lee came on Logan's podcast and made George have a meltdown over a couple of innocent jokes at his expense.
Bro, let me just say something. I'm warning you right now. Don't fucking touch me.
Okay.
I'm a fucking celebrity. Bro, look at my MDB. Anyway, I'm kidding. You can touch me. Is that your girlfriend? You know, it's so weird. Without saying, you wouldn't get that.
And as you guys know now,
I don't think that was that
this
bad.
eventually led to George walking off the podcast mid-show and taking an Uber home while crying and thinking about his life.
You know, the Beatles could have lost Ringo.
Oh, yeah.
To me, this is one of the softest things I've ever seen. Bobby wasn't even going that hard at this man at all, and if George had done even the slightest amount of research, he would know this is almost always how this guy shows love. He's constantly roasting the shit out of his friends and contemporaries. It's honestly what makes him funny is that he never takes any moment too seriously.
You're good looking and ugly at the same time. Right? At certain angles, you're like, he could be good looking. And at certain angles, you're like, no, he's ugly. And your body, though, is so good. It's like a lost pinto bean.
The other big thing is that all George
That
really
was
had
way
to do
worse
was
than what he
roast
did
him
with him.
back, because Bobby has some very public, easy material against him right
And
now.
his stomach is literally
he's still
hanging
doing
out.
this show with his ex-girlfriend, who is constantly embarrassing the shit out of him. Either way, that all transpired. It was a big deal online, and so George responded in a very passive-aggressive apology to the audience.
I can't apologize for the fact that, like, when I'm watching these kids comment what they're commenting, in my mind, I'm like, ooh, I'm in your head.
Oh, no.
You got her a heel. It gave me a superpower, bro. It made me realize, like, oh, I really don't care. Before I would say I don't care, and now I'm watching, like, ooh, I do care. I want it. I want to be in their heads more. Like, I
saw
like
this
it.
clip.
And now Logan came to be on Bobby's podcast, Tiger Belly, and we, the audience, discovered that George never even apologized to Bobby.
What happened with George?
Yeah, this is where I want to get to the bottom line. So I want to say something. Number one, he hasn't reached out to me.
I told him to. I told him to. He didn't.
Number one, I don't even know what the fuck I did. And number two, why did he leave?
Logan from here immediately took Bobby's side when it came to this dispute over who was wrong.
Bobby, it was his fault. Bobby, you were right. You were right. And don't let my audience get to you, bro. They can be
I understand.
specific.
Is he like the softie of the show?
Yes. But that's why he's on the show. That's why he's on the show.
Right.
You don't know that. You don't know that. That's why he's there.
It's funny that the reason he says George is actually on the show is to be soft and sensitive, rather than to be the comedian providing funny moments.
That was
You know,
weird.
I feel like this is my personality. I'm a chic gentleman.
I don't know any
you what I'm
soft
saying?
comedians.
I don't play no games anymore. I'm an adult. You know, I got wifey back at the crib. You know what I'm saying? Mom and dad are proud of me. I pay my taxes, all right? I diverse my portfolio.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
In reality, he's really just there
Jamar
to
did not like
interject
him.
with religious questions that make guests uncomfortable. The other thing is that everyone was getting roasted during that podcast and taking it in stride. It's not like George was being singled out until he made himself such an easy target.
I thought it was funny. He was in jest, and you're with the comedian. You got to be willing to go from A to B to C.
And then Bobby continues to talk about how weak of a move this was for George to walk out mid-podcast.
If this guy right here walked out on a guest, he would be reprimanded.
How?
2-month suspension.
Oh, whoa.
walking out, I guess I would feel so much shame.
Yeah.
If you had walked out,
That's
right?
really unprofessional.
It would have been like, oh, it's over. But him walking out was just kind of like, let's keep going.
He apologized on the
Yeah,
episode of Impulsive that's coming out tomorrow. He was
That's interesting.
he was regretful.
Never really apologized to me though.
Which
That's
shocks me because I told him to reach out. I said, you should reach out to Bobby.
This is when they decided to FaceTime George live because he could never even man up and apologize to the guests for fucking up their show. That's how you know sensitive George still feels slighted about this whole experience. Like, I bet he stays up late night watching the footage back over and over again, like me when they said Dez didn't catch that fucking ball. So either way, Logan calls him, puts Bobby on the phone, and from there, we get this apology that rivals the Liver King.
I want to apologize for my behavior
I'm laughing.
on your podcast. I feel like I was a little...
Bobby Lee, you shut your mouth. I'm apologizing to you. I left you. You were our guest. And I left you, Bobby. I will forever regret that for the rest of my fucking life. There's not a day I will lay my head on that pillow and not know that I disappointed a prince that does stand up like you. You have any idea how ashamed of myself I am?
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my God.
But I want to pull back my apology then.
I didn't mean it.
Too, because I literally did not feel sorry.
I swear, Bobby Lee is too fucking hilarious. The fact that he took back his apology is amazing because he really didn't do a damn thing to sensitive George. And it was also a great way to break the ice, disarm George's feelings, and not have to demand an apology outright. But don't you guys get it twisted. He's still out here roasting his ass.
If you would have came and punched me in the face, I would have said thank you.
Yeah, and I gave you compliments. I called you a fat Oscar Isaac. That was good.
And then Bobby does the good big brother thing and explains to George that it's okay for him to take aim at himself as well.
And let's have a relationship where we can rip on each other.
Overall, I would say this whole interaction was a W for everyone involved. Bobby clearly felt bad for making him walk, and in his own way told him it's all gonna be okay. As for George, I hope he learned a valuable lesson here to come to the podcast much more prepared, and to leave his ego as well as his emotions at the door. Maybe this will be a turning point for this theater kid turned wannabe funny man. Either way, y'all let me know what you guys...
Jamar does not fuck with he do not like him at all. But yeah, I thought that was super corny. But you know, he apologized after they FaceTimed him. But it is odd that he didn't reach out, especially when Logan Paul was like, hey, I think you should reach out. I feel like he should have, but he didn't. But sure, they handled it live on this podcast. But yeah, Bobby, he could have like went in on him way worse and he didn't. So I was really surprised when he walked off. I was like, is it that serious? But this is a learning lesson for him, hopefully. So hopefully he doesn't do it again, but maybe he will. Y'all let me know what y'all thought, though. Let me know what other videos you're going to watch, and I'll see y'all the next time. Bye.